In this episode, I'm going to invite a special guest, Dr. Sun Jones. She's originally from Korea and migrated to United States at age 16. She's a family nurse practitioner in Arizona and obtained her master's and DNP degree from Arizona State University. She is associate professor at University of Phoenix, also practiced as a nurse practitioner at Family Practice Office. She was elected for fellow for American Association of Nurse Practitioners and also received John Sparling Distinguished Faculty Award in 2024. She is American Association of Nurse Practitioners Arizona State Liaison and Executive Director and President for Korean American Nurses Foundation. This episode will be particularly inspirational for those who grew up outside the United States and want to pursue nurse practitioner career. So sit back and relax and listen to our conversation with Dr. Jones. Aloha, I'm Miki Miura, a family nurse practitioner in Hawaii. I've been a nurse practitioner for 10 years and I absolutely love being a nurse practitioner and the lifestyle that Korea has given me. My passion is mentoring nurse practitioner students and new grad nurse practitioners to build amazing careers so that they can have the freedom of choice on what they want to do and how they want to live. All right, let's get into it. Thank you so much, Dr. Jones, for this opportunity. I'm so excited to interview you today.
Oh, thank you so much for inviting me today. It's just so good to see you here again.
Yes, so as I mentioned in the introduction, I know Dr. Jones through American Association of Nurse Practitioners. We are both state liaison. But she is ahead of the game, to be honest. She achieved so many things, as I mentioned in the beginning, but we would like to ask a little bit more about how she got the fellowship and then what she does for Korean American community and so many other things. Super excited, and this is very inspiring for all international nurses, all nurse practitioners, but particularly for Asian nurse practitioners also. So very thankful. Thank you.
It's my honor to be on your YouTube channel here and also inviting me to this talk because I really think that Asian Americans, especially nurses and nurse practitioners, we really need to be taking the leadership roles. And if I can influence or if I can motivate anybody to become the next leader in nursing fields, then I'm just happy to do that.
And you are absolutely inspiration. So yes, I'm super excited. So could you introduce yourself briefly?
Sure. So my name is Sun Jones. I take on the last name of my, I'm sorry to say this, but ex-husband's last name. So I do have American last name, but my original maiden name is Kang. It is one of the common last names in Korea. You know what? I just have to tell you about my background and family
Yes.
history before I move on to my career as a nurse practitioner.
Please.
Our family immigrated to United States back in my mom came here first 1976 and I came here in 1979 and I was 16, so high school here and at Arizona State University. Being an immigrant, there were a lot of challenges. Number one, as you can tell, English is not my first language, so it's my second language. And
I honestly never can tell. I thought that you were born and raised here. You have perfect, that's another inspiration as an immigrant also to be able to achieve the level that you have right now.
I can empathize and understand those who are really struggling with the language barrier as well too. And that was one of my hindrance of just progressing in my career or wanting to be in the leadership roles. So I was fearful of the language barrier and with my accent that I wasn't going to get accepted. So anyway, so that's a little bit about my immigration history, the background, and I have to really tell you a kind of heartbreaking is my story, why I became a nurse. I really did not want to become a nurse. My friends, when I went to college, they were in the nursing program at the Arizona State University, but that was far from what I wanted to be. But however, after I finished my first degree, which was in microbiology, and I worked for,
Mm.
and I got married and had a child, and she became really ill when she was about 10 months old. And so for the following 2 years, I had to stay home, take care of her, try to juggle my life and taking care of a sick child and working 9 to 5 I used to work for a bank. And so it was very challenging.
Mm.
So at that time, my sister actually, who became a nurse first, she finished her 2 year degree and she started working. And she goes, you know what? I started working as a nurse. So she became an RN. And she goes, this is great because I only work 3 days a week and I have all this time and we have such a flexible schedule. And so I think with your busy schedule, taking care of a sick child, you need to really become a nurse. And I'm like, why not? I'm being a
Mhm.
nurse to my daughter who was really sick, and I was doing all this nursing care. So why couldn't it be any different? I went back to my alma mater, which was Arizona State University, and I said, "Is it possible for me to become a nurse and start the nursing program?" And they were very helpful. And because I did get my first degree in microbiology, I was waived of many courses and I was able to go straight into the nursing program and finish my nursing degree. So that was my second career. So as many people have, if you talk to many nurses, nursing is not their first career.
Mhm.
Became their second career because they did not enjoy their first career or they had to find something else that was going to fit their lives better or their motivation was a little bit different. My motivation was to find a career that was conducive in taking care of
Mhm.
my sick child, and from there just everything else just happened.
Mhm.
I think it was a blessing in disguise because even though I suffered through losing my child and
Oh.
of her, I was able to turn my life around,
Mhm.
meaning that I went into a career of nursing, and from there, my motivation was to help others.
Right.
And at first, I became a pediatric nurse and thinking,
Mhm.
great, I'm going to take care of other children that were
Mhm.
sick and help those. But it became really painful for that oncology unit and seeing children die after both
Mhm.
transplant even and with the chemotherapy and just it was just very painful. So I
Mhm.
went into the adult med surg floor and worked from there. One of the motivational event that was the reason I became a nurse practitioner was one of my professor at ASCO. She's son, you got to become a nurse practitioner. And you got to think, this was 1998. They were like, okay, nurse practitioner, what is that? A lot of people had an impression that nurse practitioners were nothing more than mini doctors. And
Mhm.
they're telling me that you wanted to pretend to be a doctor, so you wanted
Mhm.
to become a nurse practitioner when I finally decided to go back to school to become a nurse practitioner. But one of the goal was she's like, son, what can you do to help your community? And you're telling me that you want to help your immigrant population. So what can you do? And I said, I'm taking care of them. When they get hospitalized, I take care of them. And she said, that's only few that you're taking care of. What can you do more out in the
Mhm.
community? And so she's the one that who motivated me to go back to school and become a nurse practitioner. And so becoming a nurse practitioner, that you can make a bigger impact in the community. Being an immigrant and English is just very short, seeking medical help is very difficult. And in this
Mhm.
area, in Arizona, especially the Phoenix area, we do not have any
Mhm.
medical providers who spoke
Mhm.
Korean fluently. So that was my motivation to become a nurse practitioner because I can't speak Korean fluently. Even
Mhm.
though some of the difficult medical terminologies were really hard, I didn't know that because I didn't learn when
Mhm.
I was in Korea.
Right.
As I was taking care of my patients, I was learning those terminologies, and I was just very satisfied in a sense that I was taking care of them and they were able to come to me and get their help that they need. And that was the beginning of why I became a nurse practitioner. But beyond that, everything else fell into my lap in a sense because as I was taking care of my Korean population, I saw that even though I was helping them, there were many who needed more help. That was the start of creating Arizona Korean Nurse Association. And then eventually we have founded our foundation, Korean American Nurses Foundation, to help not only the Korean population, but minority population, providing free health screening and so forth.
Wow.
So that's my journey of how I became a nurse and then how I decided to become a nurse practitioner. I could not have become a nurse practitioner or even a nurse without those people who were motivating me and making me see what I wasn't able to see, what I can do to help the community and those kind of things. So, yeah, so I'm very grateful for those people who were there to inspire me and then also who gave me advices. Yeah.
I'm sure you are the inspiration for many international nurses watching this video. I immigrated to United States when I was 25 years old, and I used to go to school with Japanese kids who grew up in different countries. So I'm aware some people might think, oh, the younger, it's easier to learn English, but it's never easy. And I can imagine at 16 years old in high school, you're very sensitive to everything and then had to overcome the language and cultural barrier. That you had to quickly learn English. So I can't imagine the struggle that you went through and then also losing your child, taking care of your sick child, and look how far you came. And I guess unlike Hawaii, like there are a lot of Korean population in Hawaii, but I think things are different in the mainland. I'm not too familiar with the communities in Arizona, but I assume probably less Korean or Asian population compared to Hawaii. So that's another probably a lot of barriers that you had to overcome. And now you are a leader, not only for the Korean community there, but you are the leader of nurse practitioners. So super, I have a goosebumps. We call it chicken skin in Hawaii, but
Yeah.
I have goosebumps that how much you overcame, and also that I can see myself that I'm following the same track, and I'm hoping I can be a great leader like yourself down the road. So that's so amazing. Thank you so much for sharing that. And you pointed out a good point that sometimes people get into nursing not because it was a calling from the start, but this is such a great career option, especially for women, and having work-life balance, and it's very fulfilling. It gives us a financial stability and meaning for life. I completely agree what you said. Now, so you mentioned about how you decide to pursue a nurse practitioner career. What about any pros and cons of being a nurse practitioner?
hmm I think when I became a nurse practitioner, we did not have a good, I guess, the reputation as a nurse practitioner. So, as I mentioned a little bit earlier about my history, that I was being called as your pretend to be mini doctors. So, a lot of people did not support. So, the lack of support, and even now, even though we have gained a lot of respect among a lot of people, mainstream Americans as well as Koreans, that we're still being seen as that, I want to say, second-hand citizen.
Right.
So especially for Asian population where their medical doctors are highly regarded. So no matter what type of education I have, they still consider me as, oh, you're just a nurse. Yeah, I need to get a second opinion from doctors because you're just a nurse. I do get that still. So it might be the only con that I can see. But the pros are that I am, especially in Hawaii and Arizona, we have an independent license, which means that we're able to practice fully to the scope of what we're allowed to practice. If I wanted to have my own practice, we can have our own practice. Not to because of the business aspects, but however, so we have the independent license that we can practice. I can do whatever I would like to do in managing my patients, so I don't have to follow the doctor that I work for. He does have some guidelines and recommendations, but he respects what we do as
Mhm.
nurse practitioners. So that autonomy and the freedom
Mhm.
to practice is great. So those are pros. And then not only that, the community services that I can do to help my patients, even having the health screening, the free health screening for my community members. I could not have done that as nurse
Mhm.
because I'm a nurse practitioner. I'm able to have my foundation and have those events under my license, and I think it brings me a great satisfaction and joy that there are some people that we're able to help. It's not all about
Sure.
making money, it's not all
Mhm.
about doing well with my own career, but it is to the fulfillment that you feel after providing those help to those people who really need them, and it just it's worthwhile. So those are some of the pros.
Sure. Yeah, for sure. I feel like sometimes I feel like the nurse practitioner job is best of both worlds. As a nurse, sometimes you feel like I wish I can do something more for this patient. I know what they need, but because of the license, I can't prescribe. I can't do something right away, and I have to wait for somebody else to do it. And then, but also as a nurse practitioner, usually we have more time with patients to counsel, and also typically we are more easier to talk to. So patients may not talk too much to physicians because they look busy or whatnot, but
Yeah.
we are super easy to talk to. Patients feel very close to us and ask any questions. And I really love the closeness with patients. And I think that is a skill that we acquire as a nurse. So I think there's a marriage of having that authority of being able to prescribe, diagnose, and then also have a closeness with patients and family. I want to ask, so you mentioned, yes, there a lot of Asian immigrants or immigrants in general may not be familiar with nurse practitioners because where they're from, maybe there's
Mhm.
no nurse practitioners, or maybe they just started nurse practitioners profession. So if they say, "Oh, you're just a nurse," or "When are you going to medical school?" which I've
Yeah.
asked before, how would you advise to answer those questions or those comments?
I used to get that question all the time. It's just, wow, you're just like doctors. Say you're just doing a great job in managing my medical care. And when you're going to go to school and become a
Mm,
doctor? Yeah, then my explanation is that I'm a nurse practitioner. I can prescribe and I can treat you and I can do everything I need to do to help you get better. And I do not need to get a doctorate
mhm,
degree to do that. So I have no plan of going back to
mhm,
medical school to get my MD. Being a nurse practitioner in this area for now over 20, like I'm getting 25 years, that most of my patients now understand and they
mhm,
know. So one of the other things that I do is I go to Korea once a year and I do
mhm,
visit a university there. And if time permits, then I do go and do a lecture
mhm.
about a nurse practitioner role and how different it is from Korea to here, and what kind of independence we have, or what kind of scope of practice we have, which is so different from being
Mhm.
in Korea. Educating my folks, the patients and families, and even friends who really do not understand what NP means. So that's one thing that I am constantly doing internationally and
Mhm.
here in the States and right here in my hometown too. Arizona, we don't have that many Asian population. Our
Mhm.
Asian population is growing rapidly, but
Mhm.
however, still we're very minority population here in Arizona, unlike Hawaii. Like when
Mhm.
you go to Hawaii,
Mhm.
they think I'm local because they know I'm
Yeah, I'm
um,
sure.
yeah, but here, yeah, we are considered as a stranger to this country because we look different, and I have to overcome that a lot. Just even the other day, one of my patients came in very old, and he went to Korea for Korean War to help out.
Mm,
That tells you how old he was. And oh, honey, you Orientals, like that
mm,
terminology is not
right.
politically correct nowadays. He didn't know better. And it was like, how did you get to this country? You must be a
Mm,
war bride. I'm just a little young for that. I would have been much older if I got married with a GI back in the 50s. So I was joking about that and
right.
trying. explain to them that there's a different routes that people come. There are still a lot of people who do not understand us as an
Mhm.
agent lens, and then they still don't understand what MPs do. So we constantly have to educate them.
That is so true. Now, I do very similar thing. I go to Japan and give lectures and try to help Japanese nurses to elevate their profession. Actually, my alma mater was associated with Yonsei University.
Oh, really?
Yes, so I think I contact with some students from Yonsei University. But can you remind me what's the difference between nurses in Korea and nurses in America? Because in America, nurses with the RN license solely people can do so many things. Either there is IV nurse and who can do advanced procedures and stuff like that. And then are there any nurse practitioners in Korea?
Yes, they have multiple nurse practitioner programs all over the
Mm.
country, and mainly right now they're serving in the ICU and hospital settings. The doctors are motivated to hire nurse practitioners per se, but they're only working as a physician extender
Yeah.
for unions, which is unfortunate. They went through the policy changes. They tried to get the policy changed to where the nurse practitioner can have more of the independent practice and all of that, but it is just not working that way
Mm.
yet. So there are some people up on the at Korean Nurses Association in Korea trying really hard to really define what Nurse Practice Act and how
Mm.
this needs to work with the independent license, not under the physician's license and
Mm.
so forth. So there are a lot of work to be done. But
Mm.
one thing that it just frustrates me is the attitudes and the belief that nurses have that bound by how they practice all these years that they really don't see that they need to have that independence. Rely strictly on physicians to provide the orders and they only
Right.
orders and their
Right.
the scope of practice and there it's just so limited.
Mm.
It is slowly changing. If you go to some of the bigger university hospitals like
Mm.
Yonsei and Korea and some of the big hospitals, they're becoming more like here in the United States that nurses have a lot of powers. I don't want to say power, but they have a lot of independence. They're able
Mhm.
to practice like nurses, where, when I visit the local hospital settings, that is a little bit different.
Sounds very similar to what's happening in Japan. There are also nurse practitioners in Japan, but they're mostly in hospital and they also do certain procedures that are advanced. But in the United States, registered nurse with certification do those procedures. You don't necessarily need advanced like a master's or doctorate degree. It sounds very similar. And what I noticed too is in the United States, registered nurses are taught to practice evidence-based practice. So it's
Mhm.
not just, oh, we've been doing this way for a long time.
Right. Mhm.
But everything we do as a nurse practitioner or even as a nurse in the States has to be evidence-based. We don't just do it just because somebody told me. Or even Dr. Smith told me to do it. I'm not going to do it just because he said it. It's
Mhm.
not going to take responsibility for me. I have responsibility as a professional. So I think that's something that have to have that mind shifting or paradigm shift
Yes.
in order to elevate the profession. And it sounds like Korean nurses may be facing a similar problem.
Very well said. And one example I can give you is that and now I'm remarried and my husband is Korean. So that's one of the reasons why we go back to Korea once a year. But his mother was in the hospital and she passed away, but she had multiple organ failures and she was
Mm.
not doing well. And when I approached the nurse and I noticed that some of the medications were contraindicated for renal failure
Mm.
patients. And so I did mention that to the nurse, and I said, I'm just really concerned that she's
Mm.
on these medications and she doesn't really, she has very poor renal
Right.
clearance. And the nurse was like, oh, it never even
Mm.
dawned on him to double check
Mm.
or question. And here in the United States, if we saw something like that, there's no way we'd be calling the attending and saying, I'm really concerned, this is what's going on. And if the attending doesn't listen to you, then you can go to your manager and the manager
Yeah.
mean. And we have a loud, I don't want to say loud voice, but we take a responsibility for that as nurses.
Yeah.
That was the big difference. And yeah, I totally agree. It's the mindset and the paradigm shift that needs to happen. And
Right.
so going back to the nurse practitioner program, so what I have done was with the university that I have affiliation with in Korea, that I did invite nurse practitioner students to do a 1 week of observation just to see, to be a nurse practitioner here in the United States and to compare. It was an eye-opening experience for them, and they could not believe nurse practitioners can write prescriptions and do all of like procedures and things like that, and that even nurses do the central lines and things that they were even not allowed to touch the patient. There are many different procedures that they have never done as nurses, and they were shocked with the difference they saw in how we practice here in the United States. I'm happy to say I'm working on another program that I am inviting them this fall. So we'll have another 10 students to come to visit and the experience here in Arizona, actually. Yeah.
That sounds so amazing. It's just seeing with their own eyes, they can learn so much. I hope you are enjoying this episode. Before we go back, I want to quickly mention that I'm giving a gift to you for listening to this episode. I'm giving a free PDF nurse practitioner job interview prep checklist. This checklist is full of questions that you're likely to be asked during job interviews as a nurse practitioner and some tips on how to prepare for them. With this downloadable PDF, you can prepare for interviews so you feel confident and stand out from other candidates to get the job that you really want. To get this free PDF nurse practitioner job interview prep checklist, you can go to usa.jnpproject.com/interview. Again, usa.jnpproject.com/interview. Now, let's get back to the episode. Now, I know this wasn't included in the list of questions, but since you mentioned about your history, and like I said, I want to be a good reader, and I think I started my leadership career already, being a state liaison and whatnot, but also I want to learn from you how learning English as an immigrant, non-native speaker, how did you overcome? Because you can get to a certain point, and then as a professional, you can get to a certain point, but to be a leader, like you said, my fear was, oh, what if people think that I'm not reliable because there's an accent or I make a small grammatical mistakes, and I'm constantly learning, listening to podcasts and reading articles and getting feedbacks. But I wonder, you're, like I said, I thought that you are a native speaker. Your English is so beautiful and intelligent. And what did you do to get to where you are right now?
Oh, Mickey, you are doing a wonderful job. When I first met you, you spoke so eloquently and you are
Thank
just
you.
so beautiful and you come across as one of those leaders, and you are. And having that, you come across very confident. And I think that's one of the key is to have the confidence. I was always fearful of speaking in front of people because of my accent. And then maybe my biggest challenge is the articles. Like, when do you say the or a?
Oh, yes.
Oh yeah, that just writing. Yes, I can just double check and I can have other people correct my grammar. When you actually speak, you go, oh my gosh, why did I say that? But overcoming that fear is, I think it's the biggest thing. It's okay telling yourself it's okay to make those mistakes. It is okay to speak with accent.
Right.
Somebody told me that, oh yeah, you have a beautiful accent. I love it. That gives you confidence that it is with accent. So I love that little bit of Japanese accent that come across from you. And I think it's really cute. I think it's just not having the fear and just go for it. So if you get an opportunity to speak in front of people, if you get an opportunity to do interviews like this, And it all adds up. It helps you build that confidence and experience so you can do better. And so
For sure.
practicing, so before I do presentations, I do practice in front of mirrors. I do
Hmm.
practice in the car. I do practice in front of my husband. Just practicing helps you build that confidence as well too.
Yeah, I
Those
agree.
are my recommendations. So continue practicing and have the confidence, and it is okay to make mistakes. Yes.
And I think coming from Japanese culture, when humility is one of the most important thing, and coming to different culture, that the confidence, even though you might not be actually competent or confident inside, you have to be confident in the United States if you want to succeed or gain trust from others. So I
Mhm.
think that was one of the biggest challenge that I had. People might not realize that, oh, you look so confident. This is based on the practice, like you said. But how I overcame that fear is actually get out there and do it. I realized reading books, listen to podcasts or something like that won't help because I know myself, and if I can't do it, so I had it to actually do it and then realize, oh, I was able to do the presentation, the feedback was great. Maybe I can do more. And just repeating that little cycle really
Mhm.
helped me. And I think that America is such a wonderful country that they're so used to immigrants, people come from different country. A lot of people don't actually care about little accents as long as they can understand you, as long as you have good attitude. They are
Mhm.
actually very open heart for the most part. I like you said, I think just go ahead and try. Don't be afraid, don't be perfectionist. Nobody's gonna actually care about your little accent or little mistake of da and ah, but
Mhm.
rather like they care about what you're saying or what you're thinking or how you interact with them. Yeah. What about, I notice a lot of terms that you choose. I love this kind of sounds nerdy, but I love how you choose words, how you speak sounds very elegant. And that shows how great you are in English, not just as a regular person, but professionally. Do you read a lot? Is that how you increase your vocabulary?
Oh, wow. I didn't know that I was choosing different words when I was expressing myself. But one of the things that I tell my students, especially if they're from Korea and they're trying to learn English and they're trying to get better, when I finished my BSN, I thought, hey, I can speak English pretty well. Until I went back and tried to get my master's, and I just
Mhm.
went, holy cow, there's so much more to learn. And so I had to read books and really try to learn and master the level of language to complete my master's. And then when I went back for my doctorate, I'm like, oh my gosh, this is a different level. So
Right.
I had to learn. And then I was very fortunate at University of Phoenix at back then, one of the leadership person came to me and said, I received my doctorate of nursing practice back in 2010, and we did not have that many DNPs teaching
Mhm.
in the nurse
Mhm.
practitioner programs. And so he approached me and said, son, we really need somebody with a DNP to teach a course, and we don't have any DNPs. So would you come and teach? And I said, okay, number one, just like what we were talking about, I don't know how to speak English. Number two, I don't like to stand in front of students and talk because it makes me very nervous. And I don't know contents to teach and blah, blah, blah. And he's, you know what? You got the doctorate degree and
Mhm.
you've been a nurse practitioner for over back then. I was like, I've been a nurse practitioner over 10 years. You have the experience, so you can teach. And he gave me the inspiration. He
Mhm.
trusted me, and they helped me teach. I grabbed that opportunity to start teaching,
Mhm.
and that was the beginning of really learning how to speak in front of people. and
Wow.
and from there, the next thing was we have a leadership position, program chair, program director of the FNP program, and we need somebody to manage that. So you want to come on board and do it. And I was very fearful. But when the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity is there, grab it. When the
Mm-hmm.
opportunity presents to you, even though how fearful you are, but grab it. And from there, I was watching other people, how they were talking and behaving in meetings. And I took some leadership courses on how to do project management. And just like I was very eager to learn
Mm-hmm.
anything to me or presented to me. So that way I was learning those skills. One recommendation is just if an opportunity presents to you, don't be fearful, grab it and learn. Just LinkedIn courses. There were like I was like going through LinkedIn courses, learning
Mm-hmm.
conflict management and all of that. And I'm still learning. I have
Mm-hmm.
completed the AANP, American Association of Nurse Practitioner, their executive leadership training program. I went through
Mm.
that last year, and that
Wow.
was really great. And any other leadership courses that they're available, free or not, if it's really expensive, it's going to be hard. But there are so many like free classes
Mm-hmm.
or short courses that you can listen. And I think
Right.
really helped me. And it was, I'm going to tell you, it wasn't easy. Okay. Whenever I had to speak in front of other people and at this level of leadership, they all speak so well and they
Mm-hmm.
eloquently. And it's different from the street language. Had to, we call that lingo, right? We learned that lingo, and I had to learn how to speak
Mm-hmm.
and not be abrasive, trying to be very polite and politically correct. Those are some of the things that you have to constantly learn. Yes.
Wow. Excellent. Excellent. Now, you are a faculty for University of Phoenix.
Mhm.
I work as a nurse practitioner and also I precept students, which I love. But what about being a faculty? What do you love about it? And then is there some cons with that position?
Sure. So now I have to tell you another story of how I became a faculty
I
member.
love it.
So
Yes.
this goes back to my nursing days. I was in a nursing program at ASU. And one of the faculty member back then, she had a master's degree and she was really mean to all the students. So we think they're mean because
Hmm.
they're very strict and all of that. And she goes, son, so what are you going to do when you grow up? Yeah, when you grow up does mean that you grow up in ages, but when you're
Right.
done with the program and
Right.
all of that, and how are you going to inspire other people? How are you going to help your community members that because I always talked about my immigrant Korean,
Hmm.
population, and how are you going to help them? And I said, I'm going to be that nurse and take care of them at the hospital. And she goes, so that means that you're going to take care of 4 patients a day and you're going to work 3 days a week. And then that's about 12 people. And you do that for 365 days and blah, blah, blah. And then she comes up with this number. And
Mm.
she goes, yeah, I'm like, yeah, that's going to be thousands of people that I can help. And she's like, why don't you want to do something more than that? Meaning that you can make a bigger impact. And I'm like, what do you mean? She goes, you know what? You can become a teacher like me. And I said, oh no, there's no way. There's no way I'm going to become a teacher. After I took the position, and that was one of the things that was in the back of my mind, what she said, if you can teach
Mm.
a student and that
Mm.
student is taking care of that 2,000 patient or 3,000 patient, and you multiply that by number of students, look, you can help tens and thousands of people, not only the few thousand that you can help. So that was in my back of my mind. So even though I was very fearful of taking the job as a faculty member, I took on the job. I wanted to be that instructor. I want to be
Mm.
a team member.
Wow.
If you have any desire, I hope that my story inspires you to become the next
Hmm.
faculty member at any university or any college, even to inspire those younger people to be the nurse and so they can take care of the patients. Yeah, it is being a immigrant, not having
Hmm.
history in the language and those kind of things
Hmm.
really is fearful. But you know what? If you have an opportunity to start somewhere, do it. So one of our nurses, then she came up to me and said, I really want to become an instructor, but because of my English and because my
Mm.
accent, I am not very confident in teaching the students. And so I said, why don't you become a clinical faculty? Because of your
Hmm.
skill you've been a nurse for a long time and you have great skill, you can teach them. And from there, you build the confidence and then you can teach in classrooms. Now she's teaching, actually, she's teaching as a clinical faculty.
Wonderful.
Yeah, start somewhere.
Mm.
Put your foot in the door. Great career, meaning that is not on it's rewarding. Yes, we do have those students that who gives you a hard time and all that, but it is a very satisfying and rewarding.
Mm.
Students come to you and say, "Oh my gosh, Dr. Jones, I learned so much from you, and this is
Mm.
great." And so I've been precepting since what, 23 years ago, because we have to have
Wow.
2 years of experience before we can start precepting. Every single day I have a student, and so I've been precepting for the last 23 years, and
Wow.
I've been teaching for University of Phoenix. I've taught for
Mm.
Sims University in Boston as well, distant,
Mm.
like via Zoom. And now I teach like not only in person, but I teach via asynchronous, like meaning
Mm.
on the computer. It takes another
Mhm.
skill because you have to
Mhm.
writing skills and things like that. But I have to
Right.
tell you, there are AI programs that really helps because I use a Grammarly to correct my grammar
Mhm.
all the time. And
Me too.
when I'm writing emails or whatever.
Mhm.
There's just so many AI tools now. Oh, we had it like many years ago, but
Right.
last couple of years I have discovered lots of AI tools, and yeah, I am using them, and I have done some presentations about AI at the national conference for NOF and locally as well. Yeah, I look forward. And then I'll be speaking at the NAF. NAF is the National Organization of Nurse Practitioner Faculties. So group of nurse practitioner faculties that we do have conferences, and there's a fall conference. It's all about
Oh,
tools for
wow.
faculty to use to help our students learn. So I'll be presenting over there as well too.
That's so exciting. So, can you tell me you were chosen as the AANP, American Association of Nurse Practitioners Fellow? So, for those who are not familiar with the word, that's one of the highest honor that nurse practitioners can get in the United States and in the world. How you were chosen as a fellow, which it's not easy at all. There are only limited people. I think it's less than 1,000, maybe less than 500 people in the world, in the history, who are fellow. But how did you become a fellow? And then also what it means to be an ANP fellow?
Oh, thank you. It's such a great honor to be selected as one of the fellows, and I had a great mentors in my life, and I still do connect with my mentor who helped me through my master's program at ASU, and
Mhm.
then my DNP program mentor, which is the dean, just the associate dean at the Arizona State University. Her name is Kathy Kenny. And Evelyn Cisrati was my mentor, and through my master's program and DNP program, so she was associate dean, but she retired from Arizona State University. She's the one who said that, son, you have done so much for your community members, so you should really apply to become a fellow. And she really pushed me. So, but however, it wasn't easy. They have a
Mhm.
lot of criteria that you have to meet. You have to have sponsors, such as Kathy was my primary sponsor. Evelyn was my secondary sponsor. That's because Evelyn is retired and Kathy is still very active with the AMP and NOF, and she is still currently working as assistant associate dean. So anyway, so when I was applying for the fellowship, I did not get in first time, but second time I
Mm.
did. But it made me reflect what I have done. The one key was, what have you done in your career as a nurse practitioner to make an impact
Mhm.
for population or to nurse practitioners, the future nurse practitioners? Because of my passion of providing help to my community members, I've done quite a bit of work, community work, finding a nonprofit foundation and doing the health screening clinic for the last 15 years since we founded the Arizona Korean Nurse Association. We have consistently provided all those cares all these years. And I think that was the key, the
Mhm.
consistency of providing.
Mm.
We have had some of the people who approached me and said, what can I do? So do I need to open up a clinic today and then maybe hopefully get into the fellowship become a fellow next year? No, it's not. It's just that,
Mhm.
what you have done in the
Right.
past. what type of impact are you making? So they judge by four different criteria as a nurse practitioner, clinician, what have you done, as well
Mhm.
as the community services research. So if you've done a lot of research work, published a lot of articles in the journals that impact a lot of nurse practitioners in practice, then those are some of the criteria: education, research, and then being a faculty member. So
Mhm.
with me was the practice related to community services, and then being a faculty member, and being a preceptor and making
Mhm.
the future nurse practitioners. I think those were some of the key points why I got selected. But like I said, it wasn't easy. The criteria and the when they judge you, it is what you have to put in the application wasn't easy, but it's
Mm.
definitely worth it. So it makes me feel like I have now more responsibility. I have to keep up with my status as a fellow, meaning I need to continue to display or the behavior of what's expected. So try to continue with my goal and mission of trying to help my community members, and then also to help educate our future nurse practitioners. This is an international program that I'm doing.
Wow, that's yes. I somebody told me who is also a fellow, and she happened to be from Japan. She was graciously give me some advice of you should consider being a fellow down the road, and this is what you have to do. And certainly, it overwhelmed me a lot. That I'm not trying to get it next year or anything like that, but just to think about what you have to do even apply. It's a lot of work, and it's not just you go to work and then do your work and come home kind of thing. It has to be separate from
Mhm.
your your main job that you get
Mhm.
income. It's a volunteer work, and it is a lot of work, and you have to think about the impact that you
But
mentioned.
you're doing
So
something to impact those nurse practitioners by having this wonderful informational sessions. You're
thank
making
you.
an impact. So this is awesome. Mhm.
So hopefully down the road, I am not aiming for it anytime soon, but hopefully I can build some foundation, and then down the road, if I can be like you, that will be very amazing. Now, so you mentioned about you do free screening for Korean community in Arizona. Is there anything else you do also that itself is so amazing and very helpful? And I work at a Japanese clinic. In fact, I worked this morning, and a lot of times it's also education and advocate for them. For example, in Japanese culture, I think maybe similar to Korean culture, but the doctors are very highly regarded. So patients don't ask too many questions, or patients just say, I'll do whatever you recommend. But in the
Mhm.
United States, you have to voice what your concerns are, you have to voice what you prefer. There's a cultural difference. What else do you do for the Korean community with the association?
Yeah, so that's what we do. I do write grants and try to get some funding so we can have
Mhm.
this kind of health screening because it's not cheap. We have to
Right.
supplies and things like that. So we do free mammograms, so we do free vaccines.
Mm. Wow.
And one of the biggest challenge was during the COVID, spearheaded COVID vaccination clinic for Asian and any minority population out in the area that I live in, and it was
Mhm.
a big success, meaning that
Wow.
we were able to cater to our community members at a location that was conducive for them to
Mm.
come vaccination, not state designated places where they did not know how to get there and all.
Right.
We did all of those, and I think that was one of the key to really opening eyes to other people that Asian population or the minority populations have their own specific needs that they need to be included in
Right.
the planning, the advocacy for the minority
Mhm.
population. That's what I really try to strive for, and connecting with the leadership, hopefully in the states, within the states, so that way trying to influence and trying to help them. So yeah, that's what we do. But a lot of local education, free screening, just but education is so important.
Wonderful.
Yeah.
Last question is, I know the time is limited, but the last question is any advice for particularly international students who want to pursue nurse practitioner career in the United States?
The sky is the limit. Go for it. Don't be fearful. Yes, it's not going to be easy because of the language barrier. It may be very difficult for them to understand the concepts and things like that. And but study hard. And all of my international students, they're very smart. They may not write the perfect paper, but the contents are there. I know they understand. But however, there are tools nowadays, AI tools, and there are many universities have those help with the
Mhm.
writing and those papers and things like that. So don't be fearful. And if you like to become a nurse practitioner, go for it.
Absolutely. It's worth it. I'm so happy with my life. And yeah, just be one of us.
Yes,
The door is open.
yes.
Well, thank you so much, Dr. Jones. This was such a meaningful interview for many people and particularly myself. Thank you so much.
Thank you for inviting me. I had a lot of fun talking about myself, which I don't usually. But thank you for this opportunity. Thank you.
I hope this episode was helpful for you. If you like this episode, please give me thumbs up and make sure to subscribe to my channel. We upload a new episode every week. Also, if you have any requests or any topics that you are interested, please write down in the comment section. All right, I'll see you in the next episode. Aloha.